We've got Sam in, is that New England? Are you there, Sam? Welcome to the show. How can we help?
It's actually Nebraska.
Nebraska. I just saw an E and my brain shut off. So welcome. Sorry for getting your state wrong.
Oh, it's all good. This is kind of something that's been on my mind a lot. I've done a lot of research on this topic, but I know this is not really. I know you would call it an argument from ignorance fallacy. I'm trying to reconstruct it in a different way, but basically, if you think about how the universe functions on the basis that it absolutely has no edge or it's absolutely infinite, you cannot assess that it could exist on natural laws. So we have to, by default, go, okay, if it's not natural, science can't explain it, it must be supernatural.
Yeah, that's all flawed. Like, first of all, just because you don't know the limits of the universe doesn't mean that the universe has no limits. And if it doesn't have a limit, I don't know how you can reach the conclusion that that cannot exist on natural laws, because we don't necessarily understand all of nature. And so if there's something that we don't understand, something that's unknown, then you cannot make declarations about it. You can't say, oh, there is no natural explanation. How did you determine that there's no natural explanation just because there's not one right now?
Well, how can one possibly exist? I mean, you think...
No, that's not what I asked. What I asked was, how can you determine that there is no natural explanation just because you don't have one now? That is a fallacy.
Well, that's the point I was making, because you can't assess basically that we just can't explain it. You can't just shrug it off.
Now,
say, oh,
you can't explain it now. How do you know what we'll know in 100 years or 1,000 years? See, this is the problem with basically argument from ignorance fallacies and God of the gaps fallacies. It presumes that we are in a position now where we have a complete understanding of the universe, which we know isn't true. So it not only is it fallacious to reach that conclusion, but it's stupidly fallacious because all of us would acknowledge we don't know everything. And so if we acknowledge we don't know everything, then you cannot say that because we don't have an explanation for X now, therefore the explanation is not natural. That is simply fallacious. Now, it could turn out that the explanation is not natural, but the time to believe that is when there's a demonstration that it's not natural.
Well, I wasn't assessing that it was like God. I said supernatural. I think, Sam, if you go back and rewind what my response, I don't think you'll hear me mention the word God one time. So why would you? Because that's where you're going to. You're trying to say
no, sir,
Oh,
Sam.
I get it.
No, sir, Sam. I wasn't trying to go to a God, and I didn't accuse you of trying to get to God. I addressed your statement with the words and concepts that you presented, and instead of responding, yes, that's correct, or I have a good rebuttal, you instead tried to spin it as if I was talking about a God. I didn't mention a God. I didn't try to mention a God. I don't want to mention a God. I talked about a fallacy. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but that's what you didn't say it, but that's
Am I okay?
The direction.
Sam, you are now in the dishonest interlocutor category because I keep asking you where I'm wrong, and you keep going back to say that I was trying to work a God into it. That's not true. Would you like to continue a conversation, or would you like to be knocked off the show?
I mean, can you at least explain what I wasn't honest about? I mean,
I have explained what you weren't honest about. Every time I've asked you a question, you've failed to answer that question, and you've repeatedly accused me of doing something I didn't do. What I said is, it is fallacious to assume that because we don't have an explanation now, that therefore there isn't a natural explanation. Am I wrong?
no, you're not wrong.